Oh.
Well, good evening, and I hope you are surviving the very, very cool summer that we're walking into in the UK. It's been a fun and games, but we've got a little bit of air conditioning here, so we're trying to survive. But hey, if we didn't have the weather to talk about, what would we talk about? But anyway, welcome to the Online Wine Tasting Club. Really excited to have everyone here. If you're not watching Switzerland versus Canada or whatever else you might be doing. For those of you joining us for the first time, thank you very much for joining us. Lovely to see you all. We have, as always, our Slido, so you can go to slido.com and TOWTC.co.uk/taste.
I might not have done that actually, so I'd follow the URL.
Scan the QR code, and then you can put the tasting in. But we are in the south of France today, and what you might be really excited to know is me and Alex aren't going to do very much talking today, so probably less silly puns, less silly jokes, less things, and the serious stuff is some brilliant wine, because we have Jean-Louis from Blashenwell Wines joining us today to talk through these 6 brilliant wines. So welcome, Jean-Louis.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I think it's just brilliant that we choose the warmest day of the year so far to enjoy some very cool, fresh wine from the Languedoc-Roussillon. I'm Jean-Louis, as they say, with my partner Soren. We developed Blashenwell Wines. It's a partnership between myself. We've been in the wine trade for well over 28 years, and Soren, who's been a wine aficionado and developed his own brown Blashenwell wines. So we join forces and finances together to bring you exciting wines, small plots. We only really sell to very few, very high-end restaurants in London and Dorset. That's where predominantly where we do business, but we're very low-key, so our wines you won't find really online, not yet, at least. Or if we do, that's something that we control ourselves, or via our new friends from online wine tastings. That's where I think we're quite happy to explore partnerships, and we will always make it happen. We'll bring small batches, but obviously the bigger demand, the more wines we bring in. We manage just between the heat to get a whole palette of beautiful wine from Burgundy. So maybe something for after the summer. Maybe we'll have to discuss for the cooler months, and for the winter and the autumns ahead, maybe Burgundy can be a nice topic as well to add. Anyway, so without any further delays, I'm sure there is some more instructions that you want to share about how the process.
Yeah, so I think not huge amounts of instruction, but I think we can probably get wine number 1 into the glass. And I think just before we dive in, everyone sip along and put your tasting notes in. But let's just talk a little bit about the collection of wines we've got today, how they're all together, why this is there, the COP and the region. Because I think sometimes when we talk about France, we hear about the big region. Well, not the big, but the prestigious regions. We hear Bordeaux, we hear Burgundy, we hear Alsace, we hear Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and we hear a lot of those brand names. And sometimes the slightly smaller, slightly, out of the way places don't get the love. And they're making brilliant wines. And sometimes you say south of France and everyone expects it to be Provence and Rosé, and that's all you get. So tell us a little bit about, the history, the co-op, and how this has all kind of come together while people sit through the first wine.
Absolutely. I think hopefully you all have your pack and you're joining the fun with the first wine of the night. So tonight what we brought for you, and that's a lot of the new lines. I've been importing the Collines du Bourdic, and so you have to visualize. And I think we have the map as well. Maybe our friends can share the map. just to put things into perspective. But the Languedoc-Roussillon is actually the largest wine producing region in France in terms of like volume, because we have a lot of cooperative. Also, like every areas, we have changes and evolutions. And Collines du Bourdic is now one of the most innovative winery in the regions. It's located near the town of Uzès. For those who had the pleasure to go on holidays in the south of France, Uzès is situated roughly between Avignon and Nîmes. And you probably have heard about, we have so many famous monuments, and obviously a lot of Roman architecture. And the Pont du Gard, especially, which is after the Eiffel Tower, is the most visited monument in the south of France, which was built by the Roman over 2,000 years ago. Still standing and still and it's a really big attraction. And we have some of the wines, including the first one that you're having now, which is Soleil, and which is the Coteau du Pont du Gard. So it's basically on the left and the right side of the bridge, and there is some vineyards which got their own IGP, Indication Geographic Protected Appellation, which is very specific for the area around on both sides of the Roman bridge. So quite a lot of history and so on. A bit more about the producers. Obviously, they've been around since 1928. They represent around 1,700 hectares of vines. They're moving more and more into organic. Already 150 hectares have been converted. And the rest, which is not converted, is really applying. And obviously, we are blessed with a lot of sunshine, so they don't really need much chemicals treatment. They only use when they need. They do what we, and that's something at Blashenwell we focus with a lot of our producers. Lutte raisonnée, which means basically, just want to make sure we don't lose power here. I'm still online. Good.
Yeah, you're still here. You're still here. All's good.
So lutte raisonnée means basically just using chemicals only if you really have something coming out, then you deal with it, but you don't do it in a systematic way, which a lot of the really big, heavy producers or mass producers will do. They just like every month they do treatment. Not in Bourdic. They only do something if there is a need to do it. I think the biggest change we see in the vineyard, because I still have a house 5 minutes from Collines du Bourdic. So every summer, the one thing I've noticed, and we talk always, I think climate change is something which always interests people. And something that we notice is before the harvest will always be around the first, second weeks of September. And in the past 3-4 years, now the harvests they start with the white grapes around the 10th of August. So it's basically a month earlier than what it used to be.
Wow.
And they have to wake up extremely early because you want to preserve the freshness. You don't want too much alcohol, which I think is a problem you find in many wines coming from the Mediterranean basin and further, obviously, South Africa, Australia, and even South America. There's an impact if the winemakers, if they don't harvest at the right time and they let the grape a little bit too long, then they have too much alcohol, and then you lose the balance and you lose freshness. So I think they spend a huge amount of time checking several times during the day the quantity of sugars into the grape, which basically they will know will give them the right alcohol level, the acidity level, and they monitor and then bring us all those wines full of freshness, perfect for the very hot weather. Obviously, they don't just sit under the sun and drink. Have a parasol. I think it's always good.
Yeah, I think it's impressive that, from where we talk about climate change and it is getting warmer and you get so many sunlight hours, to have a wine that is still great fruit, great intensity, but the ability to keep the alcohol, at that 12.5% level shows a real level of care, because it's for a lot wine, it's very easy to pick early, but then you get loads of acid and no flavor. This has managed to be picked early enough to have brilliant flavor, and it's not suddenly 14.5%. So there's some real care into what's happening in there.
Yeah, I think it's also a very unusual blend because we have Grenache Blanc, which we know as Garnacha Blanca in Spain, which give very full-bodied wines. I'm sure through your events you had many wonderful examples of Spanish Garnacha, but which we found a lot. We're talking about Châteauneuf du Pape, so that's one of the key grapes that we have in a lot of Châteauneuf du Pape, but which is here in a blend 50-50, and that gives structure to the wine. Typically, ABV is higher as well in most wine, more like around 13.5. So to keep this balance, I think is very important. And then they added Colombard. So that's a bit more unusual for the area because for those who like brandies, it's one of the key grapes for cognac and Armagnac productions, which, as you know, they make the wine, then they distill it, and that's how you make brandy. But in this case, they realized that Colombard helped to naturally keep freshness and very delicate, very crisp fruit, a lot of apple, those kind of characters, very easy to look after at the same time. Obviously, as long as you keep the yields, and for this wine, the yields, so the yields are basically the quantity of grapes per hectares, and here we are on 60 hectoliters per hectare. So basically, once you press the grapes, that's what you get. And to give you an idea of scale, a mass producers will be more like around between 80 and 90 hectoliters per hectare. So 60, that's where you keep the productions reasonable and the quality high. I mean, obviously, like my partner Soren always said, the proof is in the pudding. So I'm sure you already had a few sips, and please share some feedback.
It's delicious. It's so rich. It's funny. It has the richness, the phenolic ripeness that gives you that, those really ripe fruits that we're seeing in the tasting notes, and we're seeing everything from pear, pineapple, kiwi, tropical fruits going through there, and apricot as well. But still that sharpness and freshness that cuts through, to keep that. To get the flavor development towards those ripe fruits, and yet to keep the acidity for the freshness is quite a skillful bit of winemaking. And like you say, it's not just a one trick. You can't just move your harvest date. You have to do so much with canopy management, with shading the fruit, with deciding how much of how many leaves that bunch of grapes gets to ripen it. Because if you get that out of balance, if you have a huge canopy, it's going to ripen super quickly on the sugar front before the flavors have had that chance to evolve. So yeah, really interesting. Can I ask a question? Is this is there any oak at all on this one, or is it all no?
Yeah,
interesting.
I think this is brilliant. But also it's we sometimes we go, all right, this for me, this is a proper sit outside in the sunshine and drink it, and then open another bottle and do it. And I think sometimes when we talk about those patio pounder wines as such, they are usually those kind of very generic, very simple, very Italian Venezia Pinot Grigio. And so you go patio pounder and you think it's no, but this is just sit outside, you can drink it, and it is that kind of thing. You just have it in the ice bucket and you go, and it will be gone before you know it's gone, and do another one. But that's the sign of a brilliant wine. But it's also got enough texture and enough flavor and enough that this is a serious wine that you could also have a conversation about.
Yeah, and you could have it with some food. I mean, what kind of foods from the region do you think would go really nicely with this one?
There is so many options. Obviously, a bit of ratatouille, a bit of fish stew could work very well.
Sort of bouillabaisse kind of thing.
Yes, obviously it'll be further down, a bit closer to Marseille, but that could be the kind of wine, instead of having Côte de Provence rosé, which will cost like twice the price. Obviously, we're going to try some rosé as well. I think that will be the sample number 2, where we'll have the rosé, so based on the same philosophy. Obviously, for the Soleil white, so summer salads, sweet and sour chicken, cold cut of white meats, creamy goat cheese.
Wow. it's very versatile because it's got enough power that it's not going to get lost behind something with a little bit of flavour, and it's got enough acidity that it will cut through something that's a little bit richer. It's a really versatile wine. I think it's brilliant.
And the good thing, once you got the bottle open, it's really going, because for me, as a wine buyer, because that's my main job at Blashenwell Wines, I do a lot of the hunting. And again, so every time I go to the south of France, I bring a lot of samples. And with my partner, we sit down in September, usually, or October, and we do big tasting, and then we decide bit our next move for the months ahead. So what I was going to say, yeah.
No. So Kathy is enjoying it with her salmon, so that sounds nice.
And Helen's point that's just coming up now, it's an absolutely perfect wine this time of year. When you want to have something that you might want a little bit more chilled, but still having some texture and some oomph about it, your outdoor wines can still be brilliant. They don't have to be cheap and cheerful and bargain basement. You can have brilliant stuff. So no, I really like that. So should we move on to wine number 2?
Just before number 2, just what I was going to mention, which is very important. So the good thing, how I was mentioning about being a wine buyer, and for me, one of the factors obviously is the drinkability. But what's very important, sometimes you try a wine and the first sip is good, but you come back to it like half an hour later, and then everything just fall apart. The foundations are weak, then the wine just collapses. And that's, for me, I never rush any decisions. That's why I never do wine buying when I go to the south of France, because you have the food, you have the atmosphere, you have the people. Maybe we'll see some pictures later of some of the events which they organize at HVE du Bourdic. They do this collinade. So it's like a big party, and maybe we can share some photos now. And they do those big parties, but it's extremely dangerous. And that's why I don't do my buying decisions when I'm in the vineyards, because it's very easy to get carried away. I bring the samples, and then I check the evolutions, and I always check over a 3 days period. Because especially we sell wines for restaurants, and they need wines to go by the glass, so you want the wine to hold on to its quality. You don't want the wine to collapse.
No, absolutely. And I completely agree with you. And I like to call it local lager syndrome. You go somewhere, you sit on the beach, it's hot, it's 40 degrees like this, and you get given the bottle of wherever it is, Red Stripe from Jamaica or Kio from Greece or something like that. And you think, this is the best beer I've ever had, because you're sat on the beach having it. You come home and 3 weeks later, you're doing your shop and you see a 4-pack of it in the supermarket. It's not quite the same on a cold, wet October evening in England as it was sat on the beach. And I think, and I think wine is that, and I'm quite lucky when I travel, you go to these brilliant places, and yes, you taste some brilliant wines, but in situ, they always feel elevated 5-10%, don't they? If not a little bit more, because you're there with the people, with the food, with it. And wine is part of that experience, rather than you able to go and really dial in and focus in, this is the wine, and what does it do in a different environment?
Totally. And I think also it's not just the environment, but the glassware you use make a big difference. And obviously all those wines from the south with southern grapes, the best shape always burgundy shape. So basically round. If you use something too narrow, more like a Bordeaux shape, like a tulip, which I have over there, then you will, and we'll see especially it become even more important when you move to the red wines. Because the white, they're always quite flexible. They're more like an accordion. You can stretch them and they bounce back and they're fine. You can throw them from the window and they will come back all right. But the reds or whatever, it's more like granddad or grandma. If you push them down the stairs and they fall down a bit too quickly, they're not having a white frame around them, then they're really going to break some bones. So that's something that's a big advocate, and through the trade clients especially. Make sure
that might be one of the best descriptions of structure I think I've heard there.
I was like, I thought I had a lot of good wine analogies, but I have never heard
pushing
that. That's brilliant.
Brilliant. No, fantastic.
On that note,
let's move to wine number 2, because I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, and yes, I'll move those on. I'll just bring them up for a last little look. we have salinity, we have crispness, sharpness,
Lots.
a little bit of vanilla. I think the thing about when vanilla comes up, it can either be down to the things like oak regime and whatnot, or it can just be something that you almost like subconsciously associate with some of the fruit flavors that you're having, because they're so often together, aren't they? So but yeah, that's very cool. So I'll move it on to wine number 2.
Sorry, Jamie, but as you know, French people are very sophisticated. So, and it's like an extension of a sécateur, really.
If you're popping out to do a little bit of green harvest and a bit of pruning, it's okay. Have them with you.
Because the issue I realized when I had my first round of samples to try, and I was wasting a few drops, which was totally unacceptable. So I realized to use the scissor is much more clean, sharp.
The thing is, when you've done it for 5 years and you've done it 20,000 times, you're okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Comes with practice. No, brilliant. So we are
wow.
We squeeze it to the last drop. That's very important as well.
So yeah, so like as I said, this is without a question of a doubt Chardonnay.
Yeah, boom.
The first tasting note that came up was honey, vanilla, cream.
But rose as well, and there is something a little bit, something quite subtle and different about this. I'm struggling to describe it. Rose is a good description of where it's going in my head.
But really,
I'm thinking. Sorry.
You have some vanilla, some obviously toasted wood nuts. So they do use a bit of oak, but not like in the traditional way, because the traditional way, obviously, you just put the wine into a barrel, and then obviously a new oak will give a lot of very heavy toasted nuts. In this case, however, they use what they call a staff technique.
Yeah.
And the way the barrel is made, so you have several pieces of wood, of planks, basically, which make the barrel. And you don't use new, can use forever, and so might as well take the good wood because they all come from good forest.
I think the word you use there, the recycling of those barrels, is a really important thing, because it can be looked down on in some ways, and I think that's a really silly way of doing it, because you have something of quality, of value. You have these French oak trees that have been growing for 100 years, and they've been used for a few years for a barrel. They even had a couple of years of just aging in terms of before they were used for a barrel. All of that effort that goes into making something that tastes so good. You can shave it, you can re-toast it, you can do all sorts of amazing things, and you can get the flavor. But what it results in is a kind of wine here, which is, I would, if you were to give me this blind, I would just flat out say this is Californian. I don't know if you would say the same thing, but it's certainly, we've had Napa Chardonnays, which
it's a very ripe style. I think Chardonnay is a very tough thing to place at the moment. I think where the world is getting a little bit warmer, I did a wine event a couple of weeks ago, and I bought a Chablis. The wine was selected. I was just talking to her, and there was multiple people, and everyone, a lot of people in this room were a little bit older. Were like, why does this Chablis not taste like Chablis? And I'm like, because you are remembering Chablis from 10, 15 years ago, and it's got a little bit warmer. So Chablis now is a little bit more like Polini was 20 years ago, or like Macon was. And the style is kind of moving north. English Chardonnays are sometimes a little bit more Chablis-esque in the classical sense of what Chablis was when I first got into wine.
Not far from you, Hush Heath, and the Hush Heath estate just near Tunbridge. They have a very, very, in fact, they had an even slightly richer than Chablis style a few years ago. They're Springfield Chardonnay. So,
but I think that's the thing. It's where we are in France. We're warm. We've got sunshine, and you're going to get that riper style. So I think it's becoming harder and harder to go, this is old world versus this is new world. I think there's so much more about wine. I'm always a lot of blind tasting. It's like,
what do you want to say? Is it
a warm part of a cool climate or a cool part of a warm climate? and what's the winemaker trying to do. And there's so many techniques now with picking early or whatever you want to do. Do you do Malo? Do you do Batonnage? Do you do Lees? It becomes easier to make a style that you want, and sometimes less of a sense of place. So you can pick that. So blind tasting is becoming much harder, in my opinion.
At the same time, something we tend to forget, because we always think Sauvignon is the biggest production around the world, but actually Chardonnay is the most popular white wine grape variety. And as we know, and as we said, which coming from Burgundy. So really, for me, Chardonnay is a cool climate grape. That's why we have great example in Oregon, New Zealand as well. Actually, makes really good Chardonnays. And I think here we have a cool climate grape doing very well in a very hot part of southern France, where it's extremely well controlled. Obviously, I mean, we couldn't do all the wines we wanted, because otherwise we would have needed 2 boxes to the whole range. But they are highly specialized in grapes which are very difficult to grow. So things like Gewürztraminer from Alsace.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's doing extremely well with my partner Soren. They live in a beautiful place near Corfu Castle. So anybody who go down to southern Dorset, keep in touch. We do regular in-person events, which are really cool.
Oh, wow.
Really cool that we'll have all the local gentry from Corfu Castle. So we have like 30 aficionados every 2-3 months who gather to try new and previous wine that we've been showing over the years. So anybody in the Dorset area, do aim for live sessions. It's very raucous, it's very intense, but it's definitely worth it.
For those who don't know, Corfu Castle is just across from Sandbanks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can take a ferry across from Sandbanks into that Dorset region. Beautiful castle, beautiful little region. Yeah, that sounds great fun. I'm up for it.
and it's National Trust. You've got a membership. There we are. There we are.
That get you into the wine tasting.
So here, basically, we have a really good example of Chardonnay, no pretension, but I think Macon in style, that's where will be the closest in terms of well-known Chardonnay area of Burgundy. So
yeah, it's deep, it's rich, but it's not overblown. It's not that Chardonnay that everyone decided they didn't like Chardonnay because of. It's not one of those. And I think this showcases that oak can be used well. You know, an oak Chardonnay doesn't have to be so far that way. You know, it's a good use of oak. There's absolutely oak in there, but there's still fruit. There's still, you know, other flavors in there. It's not just vanilla and cedar and that's it.
It's not one-sided. No, I think for me this is actually I'm going to slightly disagree with you. I think
so you're going to be wrong.
No, for me this is a style of Chardonnay which says like it or don't like it. I am what I am, and I think there is plenty of space in the world of wine for wines that don't sit on the wall and try to be nothing to anybody, you know, everything to everybody, that end up being nothing to nobody. This is going for a certain style. If you're after that sort of more crisp, clean sort of mineral style, it's not that, but it's rich and it's bold and it's lovely. I like it.
So I'm going to go off a slight tangent here. So
you do that. We do that. We do this every now and then.
Based on exactly what you said. So there's room on the street that Treasury Wine Estate.
Yes, I've heard of them.
They've got, I think it's 70 something brands, and they're cutting it down to 30.
Wow.
They are, because they want to get rid of a lot of these brands that just they sit on the shelf and they do a job.
Yeah.
They want their wines to be for the people that love those wines, not just that's okay, that'll please everyone, that sits in the middle of the table. They want to lose those brands or those styles of wine and go, people are picking up a bottle of wine for a reason, because that does that and that's what I like, not because, oh, well, that's fine for everybody. So, you know, if you're looking at someone that's as big as Treasury in the wine world, are looking at making wines that are of a distinct style, that people are going to take. And for those who love it, love it. And for those who don't love it, they've got a different, distinct style for people who love that style. And I think that's brilliant. Rather than have so many just crowd pleaser, stick it in the bottle and everybody likes it.
Yep.
You know,
Road.
And I know that's in some ways that's sensible to have people drink wine, but it's not exciting. And
we've got the bottle here. Let's bring that bottle up.
I was going to say, I almost forgot the most important, because you have seen the pouch, but when you present to your friends, to your guests, if you present the pouch, they might just be thinking, okay, this is just the sampler, but the full size bottle is looking like.
We've actually just got a beautiful new printer which makes beautiful glossy stickers, which we're going to print a picture of the bottle to put on the front of them as well. So that's I think, but it's great to see those bottles. And there's the first wine there.
Exactly. A nice long flute. What they call flute is basically a long shaped bottle like we have in a lot of Alsace style.
Oh, that's it. I've just worked out how to set it so we can actually read the letters. Excellent.
So you can indeed see the
sun, the Pont du Gard,
and the Roman bridge, the Pont du Gard.
Yeah.
Over there, and obviously the Gard River running in the between. Also, I suspect at this time of the year there is not that much water left, so we'll have to wait.
Not so much water, too many naturists enjoying the river and whatnot.
I don't know if you put this up, but Helen's point here is the epitome of what wine is. It's when people go, what's your favourite wine? Well, it depends on the day, the time, what I'm drinking, what I'm eating, who I'm with. So it's not you have to go, I like this one or this one. It's the time and the place because those first two wines we have couldn't have been almost more different.
No.
But there's one that I would drink in a certain situation and one that I drink in a different situation. But I like them both, even though they're that different. You can't say I don't enjoy one of them. Well, you can, but I don't.
Yeah. No, exactly, yeah.
But it's definitely a very food wine driven. So fish and sauce, white meat with a white sauce, like chicken, those kind of white meat with a bit of white sauce works very well. Cheese, like raclette, tartiflettes.
My super American macaroni and cheese.
Yes. Macaroni and cheese.
Lobster, macaroni and cheese. All American.
Lobster tartiflette. That sounds good.
Any rich seafood at this time of the year, which would work very well. And lobster, crayfish would be just an amazing pairing, really.
I agree completely.
No, that's barbecue, definitely. I think that's the time of the year where I'm sure everybody's having their outdoor kitchen ready and the new barbecues coming out and the plancha
well obviously because it's England, what we're doing is this week everyone's like, it's really hot, so everyone's ordered a new barbecue, and by the time it arrives it's going to start raining, so we all know that's going to happen. So everyone's ordered their air conditioning, their fans and their new barbecues, which will arrive just in time for the storms.
And a convertible.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Should we have a last look at the tasting notes?
So we've got pineapple, smoky wood, honeysuckle, nectarine, rose cream, florality, custard. I totally get custard.
Very, very, very
custard that you get in like middle of the donut. Yes.
Yeah.
Brioche. Yes, I like that
peach.
A lot.
I can't see what that last one. What's that one? Swizzles. I think that's a kind of sweet. Yes. And apple, so a lot going on. Of course, a big hit of vanilla from the oak staves.
There are kind of a couple of confetti like chewits.
I like that. That's a total blast from the past.
And it's going to age very well. And also, sometimes things happen for a reason, because originally the one I tried from the winery was the 2025 vintage, and some pickers in the winery, when they prepare my orders, slightly get carried away, and instead of following my instructions, the one that I really wanted, which was a little bit fresher, actually they sent me the 2024 vintage. So first I was crossed, but then I tried it and say, okay, I forgive you. But I think it's good to see a wine as well with the evolution. This one got potential as well. It can easily age up to 4 or 5 years, no problem. So that's really a good investment, pleasure investment. And you can. It's going to age and develop, get a bit more complexity over the years ahead. So a lot of fun here. Cool.
Good stuff.
Brilliant.
Super cool. Super cool.
Just click it there.
Okay.
It's gone.
All right. I was just trying to get to the left.
Rosé.
Grand. Let's have some rosé. Bien sûr. Hello.
Yeah, really the weather for it.
We certainly have the weather for rosé now.
So I am really excited for this. Not because I am the world's biggest rosé fan, but because I am done with the world trying to announce that there is only one style of rosé and one style alone,
and one place it can come from,
and it can only come from one place, and
Yeah.
it must be a certain brand that shall not be mentioned. And I think, and you can dive in and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think what Provence has done for rosé is brilliant, to let people realize that it can be a premium style. It doesn't have to be cheap and cheerful. It doesn't have to be either light and cheap or sweet and sticky
fruity
and cheap.
and sweet and sticky.
And I think that it's done a brilliant job of putting the style on the map. But I think what we now need to do as wine people and wine educators and stuff, go, what is the next step? If you like a XYZ rosé, what other things can you have? So let's hear a little bit about, because this is Grenache Gris and then Marcelin, correct?
Correct. Grenache Gris and Marcelin. Because Grenache have several variations. We had Grenache Blanc earlier, not as the Grenache Gris, and later we're going to try some Grenache Noir. So they're all variations around the same, which is originally from Spain, Garnacha. So.
So tell us, we're just off to the west of the River Rhone, and where are we relative to some of the Rhone sort of village? You know, those kind of like the Côte du Rhône village. Are we like?
Basically, we're just on the border, and we'll see, especially when we're going to try the Duché d'Uzès range a bit later on, which are technically classified as Rhône, and that's the Rhône grapes into the blends into it. But we are really just at the border between Rhône and Provence, because we are 30 minutes drive from the north of Provence, from the Alpi area, so which is like the southern tip of Avenue. So it's really the crossroad of all those influences.
I don't know why I point at a map that no one else to see me pointing at. I get excited.
I was wondering that.
Yeah. That's a great map.
We must have gained quite a bit of altitude as we go into the foothills of the mountains there. Does that we've got a bit more height, a bit more altitude. We have Le Mistral that comes through. That's it there.
I think when it comes to, so here we're more like on the plains and so on. But when we're going to have a wine from the Seven is the northern part of the Gard region. That's where we start to have the mountain with a lot of mushrooms. But actually, Uzès is extremely famous when it comes to black truffles. We always think the southwest of France is the biggest production, but actually Uzès and the region of Uzès is actually a far bigger producer of the black truffle than the southwest of France.
Wow.
Uzès is basically one of there is this medieval market which is basically going on since the 13th centuries. Maybe people who remember the Cyrano de Bergerac movie, the one with Depardieu, and there is those scene in the market, and that was basically filmed in the marketplace
in the market.
The movie.
There are just some beautiful marketplaces in the whole of the Languedoc across this region. I mean, I love going across. The Languedoc. We've had some fabulous wines from Chateau Gaidard They do some great stuff, and there's a beautiful marketplace near there. I can't remember the name of it. I'm imagining my father's going to tell me somewhere in the chats where I'm forgetting. But yeah, they just these market squares with the covered things, and you go around the quality of the produce. It just every single little thing you can pick it up, and it's like the best version of the you won't have had a better one in England.
You have the goat cheese.
Yeah.
So many wonderful things. The vegetables are out of this world. The olive oil as well got its own appellation d'origine contrôlée. So even the olive oil got its own protected appellations, Coster de Nîmes, and so on. Olive oil is something I'm very interested. So every time I go there, I always bring enough for the year. Now we're going through almost like a liter every month and a half. So
brilliant.
So with this wine, are the two grapes fermented separately and then blended afterwards, or is it a co-ferment? And how is that managed to get the color that you're at?
Separately and then blended at the end, but it's always roughly 50-50 in the blend, but fermented separately because they have their own characteristic, and then basically mixed together at the end.
And is the Marcelin made into a rosé style, or is it more of a red wine because to make the color where it is?
Yes,
how
so
much skin contact is there?
Skin contact, so about 3 hours.
So still very little.
Okay. As you know, the color is in the skin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's the contact. So when you have the color that you want exactly, it's about 3 hours. Again, depending on the vintage. All those, by the way, for the Soleil and all the other wines that we're going to have, they're all fresh vintages, which I only received about 3 weeks ago. So you are very much the first people in the world of the UK, because I haven't shown them even to our trade client, which we're finishing the 2024 vintage for Soleil on the trade. So you're the first people to have the 2025 vintages on both Soleil range.
You literally saw it here first.
It's a bit of UK exclusive.
Proper exclusive. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think for me, I have one question, which is that when we talk about Provence rosé, there is always the talk about la garrigue, these herbaceous plants that you see around it. Now, I don't see a huge difference between the bushland that you see around, certainly around where we're talking now in the Pont du Gard area and Provence. Maybe there's a little bit more of some of the very sort of aromatic ones, but there's certainly plenty of similarities. Do you get some of that garrigue in this wine as well?
Well, rosemary certainly, and thyme as well.
Yeah, thyme I think is the number one that I'm getting from this. That's why I think it would work so beautifully with that chicken, like chicken and thyme, and that's so lovely. But it's not dissimilar in terms of the flora and fauna that you get around this area, is it?
Absolutely. I think what's really interesting is the Marcelin itself, because Marcelin is a grape that you will never find grown anywhere else in the world except Languedoc-Roussillon, and simply because it's not one of those noble grapes. So it's almost been forgotten. Actually, it's been revived by the Bourdic cellar. I think they've been one of the most biggest protector, we could say, of the Marcelin, because the Marcelin was created in 1961, actually, by a French viticulturist, Portugal, and it's a crossing between Cabernet Sauvignon and Grenache. And when you create those new crossing, like especially in this period of France, when after the phylloxera, which destroyed the vineyards and so on, so there have always been a lot of research on grapes, which basically, if you combine the genetic code of two hardy species or varieties, then when you combine the strengths, then you can get something which is perfectly adapted to the climate.
Yeah, I think the only other place that I've seen any level of Marcelin, there's a little bit in South America and Chile, but tiny. It's blended into other stuff. But but it's it was. I think I was at Must. Oh, I've not seen that anywhere else before. So no, it's yeah, it's definitely you know, it's a rare grape, very rare.
And it's basically so Cabernet Sauvignon and Black Grenache crossing, and so on for the little history. So
that's a delicious wine. It's so fresh. Who's enjoying that one particularly today? Drop a comment in the chat. For me, that does everything that you'd want it to. I really enjoyed that. That's excellent.
It's a proper Riviera wine, isn't it?
It is, but actually, perhaps with a little bit more. You know, I'd say there's just a touch more phenolics to it than on that one.
It's a glass of wine, and I think rosé doesn't get enough love. You know, when we talk about great wines of the world, you know, the red wines sit up there, and then, you know, top end sparklings, then whites, then maybe some, you know, great dessert wines, and then there's rosé that you can drink in July and August. I'm like, no, rosé should be year round, and I think it is probably harder to make real world class rosé than any other thing, because you've got nothing to hide behind. You've got limited skin contact.
You can't just slap in the oak.
You can't just chuck it in and hope for the best. You've got to have brilliant bright fruit. You've got to have, and those little bits that you add in have to have that little bit of, it's got to be so well balanced if you're going to add, you know, that herbaceous bit and stuff like that. It's got to be top-notch winemaking.
Absolutely. It's Helen's favourite so far as well. So I think I would do that.
There is really the savouriness at the end, which really get you to have another sip and carry on and with the conversation. And obviously grilled dishes. I mean, we're talking ratatouille, any Mediterranean grilled aubergine would be fantastic on the grill. King prawns, tiger prawns, again on the grill with just some herbs. Would be fantastic. A lot of goat cheese and so on will work very well. So again, it's going to age easily 2-3 years. It's going to hold its quality very well. There's so much fruit in it, and it's really savory. It got really bite to it, which I think it's for the price point. I think it's very, very well made.
But I think what's been really interesting before we move on to the reds with these first three wines is they have all been brilliant. They have all been very, very different, but also very versatile as well. There's lots of different ways you could incorporate these wines into when you want to drink them, which I think is really helpful. Some wines, you know, I can only have this wine at this point with this food, with this, done. These are very, very versatile that you can grab a bottle and go, it's Tuesday night, let's do it. Oh,
if you're not drinking if you're not having it with a giant steak with a massively acidic sauce, forget it. You know, those kind, this is much more versatile. And
absolutely. But anyway, time for
I have to admit, you are making me very want to come to the region again, because it's been far too long, and my children have both just got into sort of things like kayaking, and they want to go down a gorge like the Lot or the Selay or something like this. And
and the Grand Union Canal don't do it for you?
Apparently the Grand Union Canal that goes through Berkhamsted and Tring is not quite enough.
Pasteurizing sun.
There we are, pasteurizer. Yeah, exactly. So but it's
but very important before the transition, we could say, if you're having the same glass, but don't forget water. Water is our friend, especially
water is your friend.
So
precisely
between wines, have a good sip, refresh the palate, and that's where you can really appreciate the variations and the flavors between the wines. So rather than being from one like a grasshopper, have a sip of water first and refresh and clean up the palate.
This is my sauna-friendly bottle of water, which has a cork outside, so that if you pick it up at the wrong part when it's in the sauna, or when you're in Leighton Buzzard on a day like today, it won't burn you. So but it also keeps the water nice.
I have never heard a more first world problem that I had to get a new water bottle because I got burnt in the sauna.
They banned me in Austria from taking my normal water bottle into the sauna.
So, new glass.
I'll have a new glass. There we are. Happy days. So we are going to Syrah now, and Les Figuières. Sorry. I can't read it. Figuières. Thank you.
So we're talking about the 7. So the 7 is the northern part of the Languedoc-Roussillon. That's where we have this mountain range starting, so a little bit of altitude, wonderful mushrooms. This time it's more like the cep, the bolet, or all those beautiful autumn mushrooms growing for September. So they do a lot of those big grilled mushroom, like big pots of it. In many ways, marron chestnut is big. You know, when people didn't have flour, actually, so chestnut was basically transformed into flour to make bread, and very heavy, very gritty.
Wow. That must be very flavorful, rich bread. Yeah.
Yes.
I think I had some roasted chestnuts in Châteauneuf-du-Pape at a medieval festival that was going on there. And we were having, there was all sorts of like grilled food out in the streets and people in medieval gear and medieval bands. And it was just sensational. And a fair amount of wine might have been consumed as well. But, so, you know, that's, if one is in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, do what the Pope would do. That's as they don't say, but someone would say.
And again, it was very special. We see now we're on the 2022 vintage as well. So it's a vintage with a bit of maturity. And it's on purpose because when I tried the two options, the current vintage, which I think is 24, and this one, and for me, there was like a no-brainer because you have the maturity, the development, and there was only 120 bottles left. So I just say, okay, I just take it all.
I love it.
Yeah. The world experience on this one, I just take the whole batch in one go.
This is brilliant. It's intense, but it's got this great softness on the palate. It's really well integrated. It's really well balanced, and then you've got this nice little bit of spice at the end. The wine kind of goes on a journey through the palate, doesn't it? It's kind of, you know,
totally. Yeah, it's really traveling around. You have the intensity, but it's fresh at the same time. And in fact, all the three reds we're having tonight, even, you know, when you have this kind of very warm weather, it's totally fine. That's what I did earlier today. I chilled them for like a couple of hours, only took them out at the last minute. So it's totally fine for this style of reds. Put it in the fridge for like an hour, and then you take them out because you want them to be around the 13, 14 degrees Celsius. You don't want them to be higher than that because otherwise the alcohol dominates. So you really want to have this balance, and serving those kind of wines a little bit cool. I think it's a good thing to do, and they will totally appreciate it.
Because we forget that. I mean, we've talked in the past about how room temperature used to be more like 17, 18 degrees, and now it was more like 21, 22 degrees. But today, it's obviously not any of those. So the fact that we had these in the fridge earlier is really helping the freshness of that. But it's still, even if it were at, you know, proper room temperature now, right up to room temperature.
What, 36.25 degrees?
Yeah, it's 25.6 here right now.
Yeah. It's not burning. It's not one of those really over the top Syrahs. It's not making your gums throb with
once again, it's
the alcohol.
It's 13 and a bit.
It's balanced.
It's not 15% blow your head off.
Exactly.
It's not Shiraz from Barossa Valley.
There is so much fruit there. And you get the intense black pepper that is characteristic of Syrah. If you wanted an example of the black pepper of Syrah, I think there are a few better ones to show it off than that, actually.
Yeah, I think the role model was really the North Rhone Valley, which obviously around the Tel Hermitage, so Creuse Hermitage, the kind of model, fresh, peppery, a little bit of grit as well. And again, opening so many opportunities when it comes to food pairings, whether you meat lovers or not. I think everybody will find an opportunity, and cheese and wild rabbits, ratatouille again, small games. So versatile. I think just on its own with some dark chocolate at the end of a meal, I think can be quite really nice. Just a bit of music, chilling, the kind of very chilling wine at the end of the night where you want to have just good conversations.
It is
good music and a bit jazzy. And...
You know, when you say that, you just sat there going, yes. But it did sound like Collins made himself a
jazz, wine, and a cigarette. I mean, no,
it does sound like Collins made himself a mulled wine.
Oh yes, Collins made himself a mulled wine. He's got
boiling
a boiling temperature. Yes, it is tough at the moment.
But I just love the way we can talk about wine.
Insulated glasses.
You know, we're sat doing this tasting online on a laptop, but we can have these conversations. Yeah, I just imagine being sat in a big armchair, done. You know, this you know, this is either chilled during the summer. I get this, but if it wasn't chilled in the summer, this feels
beautiful. There's the bottle,
and I mean completely the wrong temperature to do this. I could be this, you know, after a day skiing, sat in front of a fire with a glass of this just to see the end of the night out. That's that kind of thing. This almost like replaces a glass of ports. That kind of feeling. It's soft. It's got fruit. It's got spice. It's lovely.
I'm in fact meeting you there because it's all in the name Les Figuières. Because Les Figuières is basically the way you describe a fig trees plantation.
Okay.
Because you have a lot of fig trees around the vineyards. And that's we do have a little bit of the fig aroma because, as we know, the yeast of the fig, they travel, they get stuck on the grapes, and we talk about microclimates. And when you have polyculture, like in the North Front Valley with Viognier, you would have apricots, so you have a lot of the yeast of the apricot sticking on the prune of the grapes, and that's in part some of those apricots and so on. And here we have those fig trees, which also add a bit of this extra dimension and signature as well. And obviously the freshness in the wine, I think, is brilliant.
I don't know if it's just the suggestion, but I have this sort of fig jelly kind of sensation in my mind. The aroma profile, you really can, you can spell.
I think definitely if you have some of those nice jam and you put a little bit of good quality cheese and
go with your cheese, exactly. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
walnut bread toasted, and then a bit of the jam. I mean, even for breakfast, could be quite.
that might be a bit much for me today, but some other day, why not? The Cévennes, this is this range of hills and mountains. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes.
And I'm pretty sure that's where I stayed last time. I went horse riding in the Cévennes. It was quite spectacular. But that must have been about 15 years ago now. So, but obviously when you get those mountain ranges, you get a very different set of kind of like the stone compared to the alluvial sort of soils that you get at the bottom of the valley. You get much more. I think it says here the schist, the sandstone, marl.
It's the unique geological mosaic of schist, limestone, sandstone, marl. So it's very complex, many layers, and I think it's really interesting the way you progress through the elevations, and you see this mosaic of soil and stones and soil and a lot of clay as well.
Oh, so there is clay as well. So I was going to ask, how does it preserve enough moisture to survive the hot months? Is it through the clay layers? Yeah,
one of those, and a lot of iron as well.
Okay.
So that's really keep freshness, give this strong, rich minerality and texture and so on.
Through these years of doing these tastings, I've been more convinced than ever that iron is really, I'd say you can smell iron more than chalk, I'd say.
Yes.
I think iron has a bigger impact on the wine than anything else I've seen.
As we know, iron is...
Fabulous wine. Fabulous wine. It's so intense. There's still so much fruit for a 4-year-old wine. Still, it's just... you could make it into a jam, couldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely beautiful. It's got fruit, it's got spice, it's balanced, it's got this roundness about it. And every time you go back to it, it's slightly, you find something else. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But should we have let's look at the tasting notes?
Sorry?
I was just pulling up the tasting notes, yeah. Black pepper.
I think black pepper and the black currant, the dark fruit. There is so many flavors, and it's the kind of wine you put it in the decanter, and you sip on it for 2-3 days, and you will enjoy it at different time and different expressions and on its own ways without food.
And this is 2022. How much longer do you think this could go for? Another 7-10 years?
I would definitely keep a few bottles for my personal cellar, and just to check the evolution, because even in the cellar they don't have any, because it's such a small batch, so they sell out fairly quickly. A lot of the wines are doing very well in Belgium, also all the countries around France, so Belgium, Germany, Switzerland. We have a lot of Swiss people. Actually, in my area, half of my village is under Swiss occupation. It's called ownership over there.
Were they swept down from the upper region of the Rhone River? They came downstream.
We're really jet set over there. And when we have parties, we have people from Germany as well. We used to have British people, but unfortunately, we know what's happened with Brexit and all this.
We all got swept out with the Brexit. Yes.
Yeah, but British are always welcome on holidays. In fact, when I go there, so you can hear I've received a rich French accent, but when I go to the south of France, they think I'm an English person who speaks very well French. And that's the opposite.
One of my favorite French wine stories is when my friend and I cycled in Provence down a mountain to a cooperative where we took in these 10-liter plastic containers,
the baking box,
and they filled them from a pump. So we had our reusable 10-liter plastic. They filled them from but before this, we were looking around, and the lady was being very rude to us, really rude to us. And our French, my French is terrible, but at least I try. I can normally try. And my friend Claire, she speaks perfect French, and it turns out that she was refusing to serve us, and I said, "Come on, Claire, let's go." And the lady goes, "Oh, you are English? I thought you were from Paris." And my friend Claire had grown up in Paris for a few years, and so she had a Parisian accent, and however much they hated us, they hated the Parisians more.
Technically, I'm from Paris. When my parents moved, I was 2 months old when they moved back to our estate in the south, and at the beginning were difficult. People were doing also the horrible things like not speaking to you.
Exactly. So now you have Parisian accent and English. You're screwed. No chance.
Anyway, let's move on. Should we move on to a little Merlot Grenache?
Excellent.
Joy.
So we're back to the Belco range. Very innovative. Again, using the staff, so the oak aging from the planks dipped straight into the tongues. So obviously, again, like you were asking me, they ferment the grapes separately, and then they do the blends, and then they do the contact with the oak planks, which got about 2 or 3 years of age, just to give a nice little polishing and add little sophistication to the blend.
And this is 22 as well.
Correct, yes. Again, they made a mistake. But that was a good mistake, because I was going to order I did order the 2024, and they sent me the stock they had left of the 2022. So
excellent.
Originally, I was happy because I only bought a little bit of the Belco. I bought about 66 bottles of each, which I reserved for tonight, because I had feeling there might be a hit with your good people. So I'm not going to show this to any of my trade clients, only for the wine club, and I'm going to see the sales, and then I will decide my next move.
After the exclusive.
Yes.
You only. Wow, what a treat.
Well, I want to make sure there is enough. for you guys first, because you gave me the opportunity as well tonight to showcase those wines from Bourdic, and
we really appreciate it. What a cool wine! Oh my goodness,
this is a lot of fun. This is a lot because it's not a blend you see very
Merlot
much.
Grenache,
Merlot
no.
and Grenache. It's
No.
you know it does it. It's
I've never seen really
bit Bordeaux-y, bit Rhone. Put it together. What do you get? But it works really well. You've got the great fruit from the Merlot. You know, the Grenache is just round and supple. What is it? 70 Merlot, 30 Grenache. And you know, the oak just brings it together. The oak's not there to be the star of the show. The oak just brings it all around and all together. It's really
it just brings the sophistication.
Yeah. And that by the way, that is a brilliant tasting note. Delicious. The tasting note is delicious, and sometimes that is a good tasting note, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's so balanced. And again, we talk about those grapes that the cooperative Bourdic manage. So they manage Gewürztraminer very well, Viognier extremely well. Also, actually, this year I didn't imported the 25 vintage because sorry, but they fucked it up. So it happened. So I didn't touch the Viognier. I have a good stash of 2024 and 23 and 22. So I'm fine. However, the Gewürztraminer was absolutely splendid for the vintage. And then Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon are two of their biggest productions because it's just something they mastered over the last 2.5 decades. And they master those two big Bordeaux grapes so well that around the September, even during the summer, you will see a lot of those big trucks. And as you know, the registration number for Bordeaux is 33.
Ah, okay.
You have a lot of the trucks coming from Bordeaux, taking 10,000 liters of Merlot, 10,000 liters of Cabernet Sauvignon, and go back to the chateau and do the little Petit Chateau blend and those kind of rip-off. So you're having Bordeaux for half the price, basically.
So with the cooperative, you know, how many families are involved? How kind of far and wide is this spread? Is it really big or?
1,700 hectares, and there are around 100 people. So people, they have their own vineyards, basically. So as you know, the principle of cooperative is not like what we could imagine big corporations taking over, like Arla, for example, with the milk, the cheapest they can, and that the guys basically go starving and with their families. That's different approach, we could say, because it's really each grape growers, they're all shareholders. So they built and they invested together at the beginning, so back in 1928, and they just basically decided to make one production tool. So in order to pool their resources, then they could share, because an enologist, which is the scientist working in a winery, is very expensive. So if you have just a few hectares, because you know some of the guys, they have 2 hectares, 3 hectares of land. I think the biggest guy got about 100.
Okay.
A lot of them, they're between 10 and 20 hectares of vineyard. So if you're just by yourself, to get a full functioning winery and the marketing as well, because it's one thing making wine, and as you know, the young people, they're drinking less and less and less. It's the case in France and all around Europe.
Because they're not getting enough. They're not getting enough of this.
Well,
more of this, they'll be drinking more.
More for us. That's the thing. But what's really interesting, as if you don't have a dynamic team to promote the wines around, it's very difficult to survive, because you will see it in France. You have a lot of cooperative, but so many closed down because they could make wines, but because there was wines this reserved for like supermarkets, and basically they will give them peanuts. Bourdic is very different in the way that they make wines for everybody, but before for consumers. So they sell a lot directly. They have now 2 sales unit, but they have 6 people as well, full time, which are traveling the world, promoting the wines, selling the wines through
Okay.
really dynamic networks. Obviously, myself,
And
I was the first
that's massively
and
important
running importers of the wine of Bourdic for the past 6 years. So
because there's so many brilliant wines out there that nobody knows about, and if nobody knows about it, they can't buy it, they can't drink it, they can't enjoy it. So we've got, and you walk into a supermarket, how many wines are there to choose from? If you've not,
well,
got
you remember
out
when you
doing
went to Van Expo in Paris? It's ridiculous. You have, was it 6, 8 different rooms full of individual stands which are potentially representing multiple wineries, and there'll be someone standing there going, please come and taste my wine. And it's just how do you stand out there? It's really, really difficult. Really difficult.
I mean, there's so much competition.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of juice out there. There's a lot of juice out there.
I think there's a lot of how do you say in English? Beg for your money?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
relying on their name and relying on the reputation of the region, and not actually competing, knowing that they are competing in an international market with wines from everywhere, from South Africa, from California, from New Zealand. And I think that what I like it recently is that the winemakers have started to become more mobile. And so your winemakers aren't just going to maybe visit the next village and get some learnings from there. They go to all around the world. They go on Facebook groups and have they will do a vintage in Martinborough, and then in Bourgogne, and then in Oregon, and then in Languedoc, and they will learn something from all these different parts. And the problem with winemaking for me is that you don't have an infinite number of chances to try it and get it wrong. You only have a certain number of opportunities in your life to do this thing. It's not like you can't paint a million paintings. You can make this wine this year, and then you have to wait another 12 months to try again. And so this is an incredibly difficult art form.
I mean, to be simple, is basically you have, because I always say the wine is made in a vineyard, and that's the base. And it's the same with children. You have one chance to make one perfectly formed child. So, yes. And after 9 months, you see the result, whether you like it or not, but you have to accept it. So, and it's the same with winemaking.
That's excellent. One chance to make a child, push your granny down the stairs. Yeah. Things we've learned today.
Yeah.
Brilliant. The tasting notes here, there's a lot of tasting notes here.
Let's bring those up and have a look at those. Yeah. Aniseed, Ribena, fruity.
Ready-made very well.
WSET. That's a good flavour.
And you should have seen the younger vintage. That's like bursting in your face.
Bursting in your face, yeah.
Like a marshmallow.
I like this. I like this a lot.
I think someone's put in a WSET tasting note, and it's gone in as separate things. Okay. That's what's happened. So,
and you can refresh even a little bit more, like around 12, 13. Yeah. 1 kg and 12, 13 degrees. That would be the right temperature to. Yeah. Even if you put a little ice cube by accident, I won't beat you up.
But I like yummy and delicious. Those are good.
This is just brilliantly drinkable juice.
It's a barbecue wine.
It's drinkable, but it's also got structure. It's got interest, and it will go beautifully with all sorts of kind of foods. Yes, it's more at that kind of like roasted lamb sort of barbecue.
Very supple, very.
But it's crunchy, gorgeous.
But this is, when you're going to do a wine tasting, and someone goes, I don't usually like red wine. This is the glass you put in front of them. They go, oh, actually, I do like red wine.
Yeah,
that's that glass. This is the red wine for people who go, I'm not into red wine, because it's fruit forward, it's lush and yummy and delicious.
Yummy and delicious, officially.
But with Halloween almost around the corner, because as you know, all big events are always 3 months ahead for the marketing. So if you give me a pumpkin soup, that would be super. That would be fun.
Yeah.
With a nice toasted bread and with a lot of seeds and just digging and slurping with the wine. And
I know what to get for my wife now. She loves making pumpkin soup, so yeah, happy days. So Kathy brings up another thing. Yes, you do get to play around a bit with blending before you decide on the final version of the wine. But
if you've got multiple grapes,
yes, but ultimately, in terms of that particular one ferment from that one area that you've picked, there is only one chance to get it right. And you've picked your yeast, you've picked your temperature, you picked your picking date, you picked your cold maceration time. There's one roll of the dice that. Yes, then after that you can start to try to moderate some of the decisions you've made through blending, and I think in a way that's why blending is seen as in some ways as a a kind of a fudge and the kind of a lesser deal. I don't think it is. I don't agree with that. So
I'm a big fan of blending, and as you know, again, it's like when you have like different nationalities, then you see the result coming out after 9 months. It's the same when you get the best of both. You can really moderate, and you decide which part you like the most. I like his eyes, and I like also his ears. Hair color.
This has become very philosophical, hasn't it? As a French wine tasting should be. It has become philosophical. I like this. So,
we need to meet some stuff from Proust.
Exactly.
So on philosophical,
philosophically, we're going to move on to wine number 6. Yeah, indeed.
Or is it 9?
Or is it 9? Or is it wine number 9? And that depends on one's perspective. But no, don't go into that. So you're reminding me of that. Oh my word!
And now we're having the special one.
So this is the Duché du. I haven't put up any of your photos yet. I'm sorry.
No,
should we? What should we start with?
Just through it all. And I'm happy to voice over and comment.
Okay. Well, should we start with the certificate?
So get the certificate up, get the tasting notes moved on, and people put their tasting notes in while we talk through the pictures.
So I'm moving to the Burgundy glass for the final one because it deserves it. It's the Racine and it's the Duché d'Uzès. So Duché d'Uzès is the prestige appellation in the area. And as they're sharing my certificate, but I got my medal here. We're only 250 people in the world who have been received within the Association of Protection of the Duché d'Uzès appellation. And maybe you have some of the other pictures. We see some of the party. There you go. So you can tell it's not authentic.
We didn't get it from Google. Yeah.
And I'm the only person in the UK who have one of those around here. But it's mostly doctors and politicians who got those, who are only 2 or 3 importers in the world, in Europe, who have been accepted in recognition of our work, protecting and promoting the wine from the area. So let me show you the beautiful bottle. We're talking about wines and books. So as you know, Jean Racine, which I think I explained in the note, Jean Racine was a famous poet in the 17th century, and he lived for a couple of years in the town of Uzès. I even had the chance to spend the night in the little tower on the side of the castle. And a bit like, you mentioned Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
Yeah.
Here. So as you see, the bottles are engraved with a Duché d'Uzès. So that is basically only the wines which are approved from the appellations. They got those embossed bottles. So that's a good way to know whether you're having a fake Duché d'Uzès or not. If you have the embossed, that's only the real deal.
Just like the Châteauneuf. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I don't think many of the people in this chat will have heard of the town of Uzès or of the Duché. How would you introduce this? What's the way in for the normal people?
Well, I think we already mentioned a lot about Uzès and obviously the truffle market, which is massive. It's the biggest truffle market in France. So from September, October, November, my family as well, we have like 1 hectare of truffle trees. So this is the time of the year. Unfortunately, my brother always pretend that the whole production, or there was no production this year, the harvest was very bad. So I've never seen any truffle. I think he's taking advantage of the fact, obviously, I'm not living on site to keep an eye on the harvest. But anyway, so Uzès is a medieval city. The castle origins about from the 11th century.
Yeah.
And then been developed. Actually, in part of my professional journey, I spent 6 months at the castle to help actually to promote the Duché d'Uzès, because the owner, he had this beautiful castle and those amazing underground cellars, and because they have a connection with the Veuve Clicquot, which we're all big fan of champagne.
Okay.
And, they're relative from the Veuve Clicquot, so they had this whole exhibition in beautiful 11th century cellars. And as you know, they had no fridges and things like that. So in the middle of the castle, you have those big rectangular pit, basically, where they were pouring through and big blocks of ice from the winter, and that was keeping the provision fresh for the year ahead. So that's how they were managing to get the people down to pick up the provisions. That's a different story. But basically, I spent 6 months living in the castle and explaining the story behind the Duché d'Uzès and so on. And Uzès at one stage was so it's called Duché because you have a duke. Yeah. And the duke, after a prince, basically, you have the king, prince, and duke. And the Duché d'Uzès at one stage was basically the whole southeast and west of France. So all the way to Cannes and Provence and Tarbes, and that's the whole duchy was one guy owning the whole southeast and southwest of France.
Wow, goodness me!
For any history buff, I think there is so much. And we talk about the Pont du Gard.
Yeah,
and the Romans were so smart, and actually the water, 50 kilometers. Imagine no GPS, no laser, just brain and basic tool like a stone with a string and and a good eye.
And a good eye.
Water for 50 kilometers, mostly underground. And the water is coming from Uzès. We have an area called the Vallée de l'Eure, which is just down the valley.
Okay.
And that's where the spring of the water, which goes all the way to Nîmes, basically was coming from. And you can still see the beginning of the decantation basin, where basically they calculated it's like a 2-degree slope. Yeah. Consistent. So you have a consistent flow of water all the way.
And Nîmes has this sensational Roman center, like with the Roman amphitheater and everything, and it's like a miniature version of Rome. You can walk around. It's just sensational.
It's like Pompeii, but without the drama.
Yeah, exactly.
After I want a Roman in charge of HS2.
Quite right. It would be a lot better, that's for sure. And Jean Racine, he was a playwright. Am I right? In the 17th century.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the first time that I've encountered the name Jean Racine is with the works by Fauré, Gabriel Fauré. The Cantique de Jean Racine.
He's going to sing now. Yeah. Look at that.
That one, the blah blah blah. That one, yeah.
Your event are full entertainment.
Exactly. So that's of no relevance to the wine at all. Let's talk about the wine. Sorry. Right.
Grenache
Syrah blend. Yeah. It's easy to get distracted, isn't it?
No, the yields are much lower as well. All the other wines so far were around the 60 hectoliters per hectare, so now we're on 45 hectoliters per hectare.
Wow.
So a much higher level of concentration, so higher grade. We're really more in the Châteauneuf du Pape style with Grenache and Syrah into the blend.
Oh, that's beautiful.
10 productions.
That's a lovely wine, isn't it?
Yeah. And even 14% alcohol, but we don't feel the ABV at all, because there is so much richness and texture, and that's the new vintage. That's the current vintage. available as well. And that's the first time that I import racine, because they have another. This is the unoaked version as well. Before someone else, it's unoaked. And because the Bourdic cellar, they have two variations. So you have the rabassière, and rabassière is the old local term for a truffle farm, which is a cuvée they make for the truffle season and so on. And this is the racine is the unoaked version of the rabassière. So I still have a bit of the reds. Rabassière, but now I'm focusing more on the racine because it's so much more elegant. And what is a shame, 47, I was going to send the racine white, but then I introduced the racine white to some of our London private clients, and they love it so much that I feel we will be in danger not to have enough. So that's why I introduced the Chardonnay. So maybe we'll keep the racine white for the next batch.
For the next tasting, indeed,
No,
and I hope there will be a next tasting. This is stunning.
I think it's
stunning.
it's a showcase that a region can produce vastly different styles of brilliant quality, but all
everything from very new world style to the top of classic style. Yeah, and wow. And I think this is firmly in that kind of latter sort of category, isn't it? It's still got loads of fruit, but it's so classic.
Yeah, you have some leather. Texture is already sophisticated. That's definitely going to age a good 10 years. I still have some really old bottles of like over 10 years ago. And even when the Matthias, the export manager who came to one of our events a couple of years ago, he told me, oh, when I had some of the 2000, which
24.
Yes, that would have been 2017 vintages left of Rabassière, and when he saw the stash I had, he was ready to buy some back for himself. I think it was the best compliment when you've done that. You have some of that wine in this vintage. Can I buy some from you? I think that's a good compliment. So yeah, that's kind of wine to age very well. Reasonably priced as well.
So I think. So do we think we're at the point of letting people vote for their wine of the night? Which is
sure.
It's a tough decision.
It is a tough one, yeah.
And while people are voting for the wine,
well, we'll just quickly have a look through. We got blackberries, dark fruit, spice, oak, forest fruits, leather, raspberry, nutmeg, and that beautiful smoky characteristic which comes through. I'm not going to put truffle into that, but I suspect in a couple of years you will start to get that truffly side.
Get the mushroom.
For sure.
I think for me there is a little bit of Havana, a little bit of cedar.
Yeah.
Give me a delicate cigar, a good Havana, not too strong, not too powerful, a little light Partagas. I think could be quite interesting. Actually, I prefer Hoyo de Monterrey. Actually, I think that will work very well.
Excellent. Excellent.
To cool off a bit.
Kathy has already brought up the point. It is tricky to decide one like. They're really interesting wines. They're very good wines. I don't know what I'll be going for. Good question. Well, let's hide the scores, and we will bring us up both next to each other. And
would like to show a bit more pictures.
Oh yes, okay, right. Let's we'll do that while we're voting. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So please vote for your wines right now. And in terms of the pictures, so right here is a certain gentleman here in his fine clothes, getting anointed. I don't know what the right word is.
Yeah, anointed. I think it's a good description. So it's when they welcome the new members of the gang, we could say.
Yeah. So a chanson, was that right?
A chanson, yes.
Yeah. The familiar guards kind of thing of the wines of the Duchy de Duzès. That's very cool. And here we have
the summer party every year around. So anybody who go to this area around August, Then they will have the Collines, and it's such a popular event that now I think they're doing it twice a year. And you have food trucks, and you have tours, so you can visit the whole installation as well. They have a separate building with the aging cellar, so you see all the barrels. They have hundreds of barrels as well for wine aging and so on. It's such a big community spirit. They start tomorrow as well into the low ABV.
And is that in Uzès itself?
It's near Uzès. It's basically 7.5 minutes drive.
Okay. Fantastic.
It's in the vicinity. But we see at the beginning of the day, so it basically lasts almost all day from 12 to midnight.
That sounds entertaining. And here we've got what looks like a great reception area.
Yep.
And I think that might be, we've got your certificate there. Actually, have we got the certificate twice? No, yes. We've got different certificate. Yeah. What? I don't know what's going on. That's all good.
I'd be happy to send you more pictures to share with the people, just to have some views of the people and so on.
Brilliant.
So, anyway, I think we're voting. So
we are voting indeed. The votes are coming in.
The voting is running along. While the voting's coming in, I'm going to run through prices because they're all quite close. And what I will do is I will send out an email tomorrow morning to everyone from the tasting, from now for the whole club, as to what the wines were, wines of the night, and how to get access to the wines, so we can make sure you can drink loads of it. But they're all similarly priced. There's nothing that jumps out. But so wine 1, £20, wine 2, £21, wine 3, £20, wine 4, £21, wine 5, £21, and wine 6, a massive £23.
There you go.
And always cheaper by the dozen.
Cheaper by the dozen.
Happy days.
There we are. So look, doing a deal for everyone.
If there are a dozen to be had.
and then a multiple of 12, so 24, 48.
There we are. So there's fun to be had. But yeah, very quickly while we finish voting, my little bit of housekeeping for the next couple of months. So next month we will be doing one. It's 31 days of German wine. So we'll be doing a German wine tasting. Following that up with what's the month after that? August. We will be doing Ukraine against the world. So Sarah Crow, who did the Ukrainian wine tasting with us last year, is joining us, and we're doing 3 Ukrainian international grapes against their real world counterparts. And then for September, I'm heading up to Norfolk to do a little bit of filming, a little bit of hanging around. So we'll be doing a Norfolk wine tasting in September. So that's the next few months coming up. So should we reveal the wine of the night and say adios to all these lovely, lovely people? You've probably got about a minute or to get any final questions you have in for Jean-Louis, because he's got the answers, not us.
That's a good point. Right. So we have, they're hard to choose. The wines were all excellent. And let's pull it up.
I have to say that this was a tasting that, I don't know if surprised me is the word, but it wasn't something that had been on my radar to do an online wine tasting club with. It wasn't in my...
Maybe a bit of a revelation.
No, and I think that's what's been brilliant about this. I think sometimes you come into a tasting and it's wines of XYZ, and you come in with preconceived notions of what the wines should be, might be, could be like. And I'm, in the chat, tell me if you're different, but I think there was... People walked into this almost a little bit blind as to, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get out of this. But the feedback has been brilliant. The wines have been delicious. They offer great value for money. And is that not the win-win-win of what wine's supposed to be? But anyway, what was wine of the night?
Wine of the night was the Chardonnay. I'm surprised and I'm delighted by that.
I was expecting the Soleil whites and rosé to shine.
Yeah, the rosé did well. The Racine Rouge was the second, but actually,
nothing's left behind. It's quite close.
I think if we had rerun this after everyone who's received this pack had got over watching the World Cup and watched it, we might get a very different result. But for now, it was Chardonnay first, Racine Rouge second. So good mix. And but yeah, thank you so much. What a
If
fun
you
night.
give me 1 second, I'm just going to grab something. I wanted to
Please
share.
do, yeah,
course.
absolutely. So yeah, yeah, I think the other thing to just say quickly is thank you to all of those who entered our silly little raffle competition. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you won. We'll try to do a few more of these. We've actually got a few fun things around that we might raffle off, like Jamie, for example, or something like that. But other bits of these. Racine
You
Blanc.
have to wait your appetite for another one, another time. The Racine White 2025, which is basically a white Chateauneuf du Pape blend.
Ooh, exciting.
With the vignerons and Marsanne.
Nice.
Absolutely stunning. Beautiful. It's liquid gold.
Liquid gold. There we are. That is the
Yeah, I'm
promise.
all in on that.
Tasting.
I'm all in. That sounds great.
And I have about 36 in the
36. Wow, small. That's brilliant.
That's
but anyway,
crazy.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Jean-Louis, thank you so much for your wines, your insights. It's been an absolutely brilliant tasting. So thank you for joining us. Thank you everyone who's at home, who's joined us. And we'll see you next month for the next episode.
And hopefully back again soon for a deeper dive into the USS region and the Pont du Gard region and everything that is South France. So merci beaucoup. Et bonsoir.
Your French is brilliant.
Keep in mind, outside of France, I have a strong love for wines of Luxembourg. So if people want to explore Luxembourg, I have a really nice range.
I've never tried a Luxembourg wine.
For the wine of Luxembourg in this country. So
okay. We should talk because I think there will be lots of people. If you said that at the beginning, people would be like, the chat would have stopped. Let's talk about Luxembourg. Okay. I like that idea. Brilliant. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you very much.
Good evening, guys. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.